What's going on, everybody? I'm Jake Adkins. Thanks for watching another episode of Houston Flight. Today I'm super excited because my guest is a former PGA Tour Pro, co-host of the Driven Golf Show on NBC Sports, and also one NFL big break with his teammate Jerry Rice, and also is the new head coach for William Jessup University. Issac Sasquatch Sanchez, thanks for coming on the show.
Wow, thanks for having me, and what an introduction. Geez, I feel like it's going to be hard to keep that trajectory going because you really set me up there. But no, I'm super excited to be here. I appreciate the time, and especially the tour of this beautiful facility. Gosh, I'm sorry I haven't made it out here sooner, but I'm definitely be coming back now.
Good, yeah, you'll have to come back. We'll have to do dinner, and you can get the entire experience, not just the interview experience, which is, I think, also pretty great too.
Yeah.
But welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on. What got you into golf?
Gosh, so, taking me way back, what got me into golf? So years back, my dad was a truck driver for Rayleigh's, local grocery store here in the area. I guess they've kind of spread out and they're kind of all over now. But I was the first golfer in the family. He played in, a company scramble and brought home some golf clubs and some golf balls. At the time, we lived in the middle of nowhere in a little town called River Pines. It's about 45 minutes out past Rancho Murrieta, so no golf courses around. And he just brought home a handful of clubs and some golf balls, and I started hitting golf balls in the side yard. And for whatever reason, I just enjoyed the solidarity of it. I didn't need somebody, growing up in the middle of nowhere, there's not a lot of kids around, there's not a lot of anything around, so it's kind of hard to play catch with anyone or, do any team sports as far as getting to practice and those type of things. And I loved how you could just go out there. The golf ball didn't know who you are, it just reacted to how it was hit. So I enjoyed just being able to go out there and hit and hit and hit, and kind of had a knack for it right away. I made a practice facility, if you will, so 5-gallon bucket to hit chip shots into, little handmade putting green on hard pan, and a net on the side yard of the house to be able to hit full shots into, and just absolutely fell in love with the game and just hitting golf balls.
Yeah, that's awesome. Are people usually surprised to hear that you're a golfer once they see you because you're such a big guy, and people would probably automatically think, oh, football or basketball? But
so I usually get a couple of different reactions, So at first is, man, I can't believe you play golf. I thought you'd play football. And my response to that is like, football, that would have been great, but you got to be big and fast. And I only got one of those, so football was kind of out at an early age. And then the other response we get in about 4 or 5, 6 holes in is like, hey, you know what? You're actually a really nice guy. I'm like, well, thanks. You're not half bad either. I don't know if it's the glare of the sun and or just my natural resting face, but people are kind of taken back that I'm even a golfer and that, hey, I'm a pretty nice guy too.
Well, what'd you think of me at first?
So those are usually the couple of icebreakers about 5 or 6 holes in.
Yeah, that's funny. So the nickname Sasquatch, who came up with the nickname?
Yeah, so Sasquatch was kind of like a collective effort. So end of my freshman year, going into my sophomore year, I left my freshman year of high school about 5'9", 5'10", and I came back the size I am now. I had hair at the time, but other than that, about the same height, about the same weight as I was, and grew almost a foot over the summer. And turned out I had a pituitary tumor. Same tumor, the people in the Guinness Book of World Records who reached 9 feet tall, and George Mirasan in the NBA, played for the Washington Bullets, Andre the Giant, same brain tumor as I did. So naturally, with some good-natured ribbing from my close friends when I came back, there was Giant, Ogre, Sasquatch, just kind of a plethora of different nicknames that came along with growing a foot over the summer.
Yeah.
And, Sasquatch is the one that kind of stuck. And, so here it is, how many ever years later. And, I go by Sasquatch or Squatch and kind of just stuck and kind of embraced it.
Yeah. I mean, that's great that you're able to embrace it and then create kind of a a mascot for yourself too, going through golf and being a professional golfer. So going from hitting golf balls into a bucket in your backyard to where you're at now, going and playing in college, and then the NFL Big Break, PGA Tour. I mean, what has that process been like, first going to college and so on?
Yeah, so I'll kind of go way back on you, and after quite a few, probably about a year or so of hitting in the side yard and practicing, and on the weekends we'd come down and play. At the time it was El Dorado Hills Golf Course, is no longer open, and we'd head up to Mace Meadows on the weekends from time to time, and the different county public courses, Ansel Hoffman, Bing Maloney. We were at Ansel Hoffman one time and we saw a flyer for the Sacramento County Junior, which is still going on, and run by the JGNC, which is a golf association for junior golf in Northern California, and played at Ansel Hoffman. After the second round, played really well, and a gentleman came up to me and said, "Hey, can we go over the driving range and I'll give you a few tips?" And we went over the driving range, and man, everything he was telling me, from grip, setup, posture, everything, it was just like, man, this guy really knows his stuff. And I said, "Thank you, sir, really appreciate your help." And I went back over the putting green, and all the kids who I just played with came running up to me and said, "You just got a lesson from Johnny Miller." And I just looked at him and said, "Who's Johnny Miller?" Yeah. And they all kind of laughed at me, and I said, "Well, Johnny Miller won the U.S. Open." I said, "What's the U.S. Open?" And so here I am at 10 years old, and they're explaining to me what the PGA Tour is and the U.S. Open, and people play golf, like professional golf, like that's what they do, that's their job.
Dream job.
And I'm like, hey, that's what I'm gonna do. Why didn't anybody tell me about this?
Right.
And then, of course, it started at an early age. Even those kids, oh, you can't, you know how hard that is. The kind of the worldview of like, that's not possible. You can't do that. And I was like, hey, no, I'm doing that for sure. And that kind of led to opening up and talking about, hey, you can play, and there's college golf, and they'll pay for you to go to your college and compete on the golf team. And fast forward several years later, and a lot of calluses and a lot of time on the driving range and practicing, and a lot of people and opportunities that just were total blessings to just continue my ability to pursue it. I ended up landing and picking the University of Hawaii based on their outstanding academic program.
Right. Yeah. That's why I would choose to go to college in Hawaii.
Yeah, so University of Hawaii, because of their outstanding academic program and some of the other fringe benefits of living
on
in
the
Hawaii,
beach and beautiful weather.
And beautiful golf courses and perfect weather, I ended up there. And, hindsight being 2020, I don't regret that decision. Maybe should have picked a different school, but I was grateful for the opportunity. I spent 2.5 years there, and that was the time, so I left there in 2000. Tiger Woods had just left school and went under the pros, and I had this view that it was like, okay, now's my time. I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna turn pro, and I'm gonna take on the world. And that is why, as a coach, I'm telling all my players right now, you finish school, you get that degree, you go 5 years, get that next level degree, and take all that time to develop as a person, finish school, and get as much free competition as you can, because I left the University of Hawaii for the School of Hard Knocks.
Yeah. A little bit different view and different weather for School of Hard Knocks. Yeah.
So, all kidding aside, leaving and turning pro did not go exactly early on how I expected, and I, was the, definition of a mini tour, journeyman. I've played every mini tour, every, AAA, so to speak, tour in the United States, every single one. And I've played just about every single state open and everything in between from a Pro-Am level. I've played PGA Tour Canada, PGA Tour Latin America, PGA Japan, PGA Tour. I've played just about everything in between. And if any of my students are watching, student athletes right now, you know why I'm telling you why it's so important to focus on that it's student athlete, not athlete student. So focus on that school, take the time to get that degree, and continue pursuing excellence on the course while you're competing, and the university is taking care of it, and get that degree. And so that life lesson I learned, I'm trying to instill with my players now.
Right. What does it mean to you being a coach now and being able to share your passion, your experience with golf with the younger generation?
Yeah, so gosh, it's just been an amazing opportunity I've had. So I left competitive golf and driven golf show right around the same time, in the end of I'd say the end of 2016, halfway through 2016. I love golf from a standpoint of going out and playing with you guys or friends and fellowship and that opportunity. And I had left competitive completely. And not too long after that, I'm thankful to say I had given my life to the Lord. I was born again, baptized, and God was just moving in my life in so many different ways, so many different blessings, and there was just this urge on me, and through prayer and fasting, He put on my heart that it was like, I need to get back into golf, and I need to compete in some way, shape, or form. And man, I gotta tell you, like, that's not what I wanted to hear. And this was 2020, and so I went out, and I'm kind of giving you a long story short of how I got to William Jessup. But I went out and I got a membership at Whitney Oaks, and I started training. I got back in touch with Ryan, said, hey, this is where I'm at. I'd love to come back to Driven Golf Show. I had missed that anyway. I'd missed spending time with Ryan and wanted to get to know Charlie and be involved with that. And I want to be back in the golf world. This is where I'm at. And started training and practicing, and really was just hesitant because I knew my game and my body wasn't anywhere near where it was when I walked away from the game. And when I walked away from the game, I wasn't where I needed to be. So I wasn't what I was, and what I was wasn't where I needed to be. Right. So that gap was concerning of how I was going to bridge it. But I kept on practicing and plugging away at it, and I waited, and fast forward to 2021, we're about 3 months out from the U.S. Open qualifier, and it's just tugging at me. You got to sign up for something. You got to compete. It wasn't like he said just start training and practicing. It was very clear that he put on my heart I need to train and compete. I left New Hope Church on a Sunday. Pastor Sam was just speaking, and sometimes when you're sitting in church, it feels like he's just talking directly to you. And before altar call was even over, I signed up for the U.S. Open qualifier, went home, went to the golf course, went out to Whitney Oaks and started practicing, and I ran into Matt Robinson, who's the former coach of William Jessup.
Gotcha. He
told me he's leaving and going to go pursue professional golf, and would I be interested in coaching the team? And so it felt like that was clearly why I was supposed to get back into golf, why I was supposed to, at this time of my life, God was kind of guiding me in that direction, was my experience and the opportunities that golf has provided to me with where I'm at in my life, to be able to lead these players and pour into them from an experience standpoint, and just give them different things that I've learned that will help them ultimately in everything they do in life. Do I want to win national championships? Do I want to build a tremendously successful program? Yes, but ultimately I want to guide them to live a life that, where they give their life to the Lord and ultimately serve the Lord, and then also have tools that will serve them wherever they go on into the restaurant business, wherever they go, instill some principles and some way of living and way of being that will serve them wherever they go. And they always give me a hard time, but I was in workouts with them this morning, and I'm certain I didn't make this up, but I'm just telling them, how you do anything is how you do everything. So just go for it, put your best foot forward, call the people up around you, support people around you, and just put your best foot forward. So that's kind of the long story of how I'm at William Jessup and how God moved in my life, and why I'm super excited and blessed with this opportunity to coach.
Well, that's an awesome story, and you're exactly right. From a coaching standpoint, I know a lot of the coaches that I had growing up instilled the same thing, and I'm so thankful for that, because you're right. The chances of being a professional golfer, a professional athlete in general, are so slim. You need to know these other skills, and it's such a tough road if you are going to go that, unless you're like a LeBron James or something like that, where it's just like, well, yeah, that guy's gonna go do something great. But being able to go through those trials and tribulations and learn how to deal with that, and being a better person, and being things that don't necessarily matter 100% on the court, but are going to matter for the rest of your life. And I think that's those kids are lucky to have a coach with that kind of perception.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, and it's just I take it very. I go to bed every night with a very heavy heart, because I realize the responsibility of, starting. I'm recruiting kids who are junior, sophomores in high school right now, and will play a role in their life all the way potentially till they're 23, 24 years old. Yeah. And being able to instill something or point them in the right direction, or pour into them enough to where I have their ear to be able to share something with them that could change their life, or ultimately change their family's life. Probably the most, not probably, I feel like one of the most important things opportunities I've had. And so I feel like it's really more of a, ministry position as much as a coaching position. Yeah. And then could kind of touch on what you were saying with whether it's the PGA Tour level or NBA level, or somebody who's just going to play 4 years of college golf and then play. The cool part is the principles or the things you need to do, whether you are that talent level or, it's written in the cards for you, that you're going to be a NBA or a PGA Tour player, versus somebody who's going to play 4 years of college golf. The principles that are going to serve you in your life are exactly the same, whether you're up here or down here. So even if you have that unbelievable amount of talent where you could kind of do whatever and you're going to make it on the PGA Tour, make it on the NBA, at some point that talent is going to run out, and those principles and work ethic and the way you deal with people and just show up to life every day are the same for everybody.
Right.
And the biggest, an ounce of regret weighs more than a ton of discipline, right? Or I always say that backwards. Is that right? An ounce of regret. Yeah, right? I don't know. I think you guys know what I'm trying to say. And that's not the point when I'm talking to the kids. Don't call me out on the, the P's and the Q's. You know what I mean? But however that ends up, if you are constantly doing the right thing, I'm constantly calling people up around me, I'm constantly living my life in a way that, serves the Lord as the best version of myself I could possibly be. And I'm doing that every day, constantly, left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. You're going to be happy when you wake up and you look around, and if it's you're living in a mansion or wherever that's at, you're doing those things, you're going to be okay with it. You're going to be happy. Doesn't mean you won't want more stuff, but you're going to be happy and you're going to be able to live with it. Looking back and going, man, I didn't really give it my all there. I might have missed that. That's the part that, whether you're the LeBron James talent or Issac Sanchez playing hoops at Amador High School, you want to know you put your best foot forward, and then you can kind of look back and go, hey. And then those principles and that way of being will serve you wherever you go, and anything you throw your hat in the ring at, you're going to be successful if you apply those.
Absolutely. All right. So going back a little bit, talking about NFL Big Break. So you being on the show, how did you know that when you hear you're going to be on the show, and leading up to actually winning the show?
Okay, so Big Break was a crazy, literally Big Break. Perfect name for it, right? And just an absolute crazy journey. So fast forward to that time in my career, I kind of found was in a groove as far as professional golf goes, and at a very set schedule of what I would play. I had never had any sponsors or anybody funding what I was doing, so to speak. So I had a very regimented schedule of tournaments where I knew exactly what was going out and exactly what would come in based on how I was playing, you know, and was winning a lot of mini tour events and pro-ams and state opens, that type of level. And basically at that point, Big Break was just kind of starting to take off. You know, we were up to probably there's about season 12 through 14, it kind of had really taken off and gotten really popular. And I had a lot of people saying, hey, you should go on Big Break. You're kind of like exactly, you know, you're crazy looking, you're a big dude, you're playing good, you know. Yeah. No, I don't want to do it, I don't want to do it. And so I finally decided at one point, you know, I'm going to see what it takes to get on Big Break. And I go online and there's this whole application process, you know, and you fill it out, you know, basically almost like applying for a job. You answer all these different questions and, you know, you write an essay and, you know, standard kind of things for as far as trying to get to know somebody on paper. And about 3 weeks or so goes by and I get a call and they say, hey, this is, you know, Golf Channel. We're wondering if you'd come down to Papago Golf Course in Phoenix, Arizona and audition. And I go, okay, well, what does that look like? You know, do you guys bring me out there? Oh, no, you'd have to come out of pocket to fly down there and audition. And I'm like, I'm gonna have to think about it. I'll let you know. So I was gonna skip a tournament that, you know, in the 5 years previous, the worst I had finished was 3rd place. I had won it a couple times, and I know it's X amount I spend on this and X amount I profit, and that's very important. This is how I'm supporting my family. I don't have any sponsors. There's nothing to fall back on. So I'm like, I don't think I can afford to miss this tournament and then go out of pocket for an airline ticket, rental car to get over this course and audition. So, you know, I'm thinking about it all the time, and then I'm like, hey, wait a minute, you know, they want me to audition, you know. How many times in your life do you like get called from NBC and they want you to audition? Right. I'm like, they probably really want me, you know. So, you know what, I'm gonna do it. But I'm gonna keep the cost down. I'm gonna get a plane ticket. I looked at Papago Golf Course. It's fairly close to the airport. I'm gonna fly in like 2 hours before the audition, 3 hours before the audition. Actually, no, I take that back. It was a good 4 hours before the audition because I was like, hey, if anything goes wrong with the flight, I'll just wait. Right. And I'm gonna take a cab over the golf course. I'm literally gonna wear what I'm auditioning in. I'm not staying the night. Nice. I'm packing snacks and everything. We're gonna keep the cost down. I'm, you know, getting the cheap flight. And so I go over there, and now I'm kind of pumped up. I'm like, hey, they probably want me for this, you know. And I pull up to Papago Golf Course, and you just look, and there's a line of people. Oh, man. Big old line of people, and I start doing the math. I'm like, there's 3 audition sites you could pick. There are 2 days each. There's this many people here. I have 0 chance. You know, I'm just down to 1 out of, you know, 2,000 now. Right. Not where I'm thinking, hey, there's usually 12 to 16 people on the show. Right. Probably inviting 80 people to audition. You know, I got like a 20, 30% chance. And, you know, now I'm just going, you know, whatever, let's just, you know, send it. So, and not that I was going to sugarcoat the interview, but at that point I'm in my mind, you know, you're kind of playing that game where you're like, so if they ask me this, I'm going to say this. And if they ask me this, I'm going to say
running
this.
The scenarios through.
You know, you're kind of, you're doing that. You're running the scenarios through, you know, kind of like doing mock interviews in your head. And now I'm just like, I got 0 chance. So whatever they ask me, you know, right from the hip. Yeah. Whatever comes to mind, I'm going to say, you know. And they're asking questions, hey, what are you thinking if it's coming down the stretch and you got a 1-shot lead? And I'm like, okay, what's the hole look like? Oh, there's water left. And I'm like, well, I'm blowing it way right. And I'm gonna hit it towards the right edge of the green. And there's no possible way I'm going in that water because I could probably save par and squeak out the win, or worst case bogey, I cash. If I hook one in the water and make triple, that could knock me out of profit zone. And, you know, and it's just honest exactly how I would think at that point in my life. And went great. I felt good about it, but still, you know, there's still a, you know, very low odds, you know, and that's what my whole golf life at that point was, assessing odds and angles and different things, and being really, being very realistic about the opportunity. Because I, you know, as much as it was a dream job and I'm playing golf for a living, you know, I had to be very honest with what I was capable of. Because that's, you know, was all about dollars and cents. So go back home. At the time I was living in Folsom, my dad and I go for a bike ride around Lake Natoma. We actually happened the one time we stopped for a little break about halfway in between. My phone rings, I pick up the phone and go, hello? And they go, you're on the next big break. And I'm like, wait, can you repeat that?
Yeah.
And they're like, you're on the next big break. And I drop the phone and like my dad's looking at me and I'm like jumping up. I'm like, I'm on the big break. I'm gonna be on the big break, man. I can't believe this. And we're like jumping and hugging and like we're screaming it like, hey, I'm gonna be on the big break. You know, and everybody's looking at me and I pick up the phone, I'm like, sorry. And they're like, okay, whoever you just told, you have to tell them that they cannot say anything. And you cannot say anything to anybody about this. From here going forward. I'm like, oh.
Well, why didn't you say that?
Yeah. Sorry about that. Like, I'll tell my dad, he won't say anything. I don't know about these people out here paddling on the lake or anything, but I won't tell anybody else. So, I'm like, we'll be in touch. We'll email you the details. And so now I get an email a week later and they go, we need you to be free from June 1st to June 26th.
Wow.
And I said, okay. And so now I get the next email and they go, you need to plan on, we're like now a month out from that. So like, you know, right in May, and get an email like, plan on this degrees, you know, between 45 degrees and 80 degrees and plan on rain. I'm going, okay. And then they go, all right, we'll send you an email with travel arrangements the week before. So now I get an email and it's just like, I have a plane ticket from Sac International to Roanoke, Virginia. And that's all you got so far to this point. So like the big break pressure, like they literally keep you on like the edge of your seat and on the edge of your toes right there. So like, I get that email, you know, you fly into Roanoke, Virginia, and of course you look at the map and you're like, what could it be? Is it like you're looking at golf courses in the area? Like what could, and I can't come up with nothing. So I get off the plane and there's just a lady there, you know, holding the sign, Issac Sanchez. And that's me, and like, okay, shuttle's out here. And I'm like, so where are we going? And she's just like, stone cold. I'm like, so is it like, are we like an hour? Or are we like 20 minutes? Nothing. And then we just start driving off. And if you've been to Virginia, West Virginia area, it's very rolling hills, very rural.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Rural, I always have a hard time with that word.
It's
but
a tough one.
we're out here and we're in the middle of nowhere. Now I'm kind of thinking like, man, I didn't ask this lady for any credentials or anything. She just had a sign and I just hopped in some van and now we're just driving out into the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
I got no idea where we're going and she took my cell phone.
What?
Yeah, so like she takes your cell phone, like
my
you have
goodness,
no
you're like
outside
being kidnapped.
No, and I'm like, man, I didn't. Well, she had my name. How else would she have my name? So now you're just going like, we pull into this back service entrance, wheel us up this fancy decorated hotel room, no TV, no literature, no nothing in it. You get settled in, they check you for any more devices and you turn them over to them and give you a phone call and say, be dressed downstairs in casual clothes, or outside your room in casual clothes at whatever time the next morning. And so when they reveal that it's Big Break Greenbrier, that's the first time I'm seeing Big Break Greenbrier.
Really?
They take you back out that service entrance and you're pulling up and you're, oh, we're at the Greenbrier. So that was my first experience. That was the first season of Big Break. It was an incredible experience, like nothing I'd ever done before. I mean, the pressure, the bonding with the other people you're competing with, and the opportunity. So ultimately on that first season of Greenbrier, I made it to the semifinals, fell just short of the final round, made it to 10 of 11 episodes, and got knocked out. Had some great shots, and you know, for third place, you get absolutely nothing other than the memories and some cool swag to take with you. But it did kind of put, you know, my face out there and created some opportunities from, you know, big part of why I'm the coach of William Jessup, big part of why I'm here doing Feast and Flight, Driven Golf Show, all the opportunities. So it was great from that standpoint and great from the experience. And I went home, and, it's just kind of like, now no one, ever recognized me. No one ever, wanted me to come play in their event or do this or do that. So exposure-wise, it was great. And season ended up airing about 5 months later, and about a month after that season closed, they called and asked me, would I be willing to come back and compete again? And so now, same scenario, pack for this amount of time, pack, plan on this kind of weather, plan on that. And yeah, so same thing, like that same pressure cooker. I signed back up to go back do it, go back and do another season of Big Break. And man, this time I got it all figured out, right?
Yeah.
I know all this stuff. You're not going to fool me with these tricks. You're not going to fool me with that. I'm going to be one shot at a time. I'm going to be cool, calm, and collected. Nothing's going to throw me off my game. The only thing I thought was weird is they said pack all red shirts, and red and black will be your theme. And I'm like, okay, they just don't want us all wearing the same color, right? And so I get there, I find out, I meet Emily Talley, and she was on the season before mine on Big Break Mexico. And I go, that's weird. And I find out we're going to compete as teams. Okay, no big deal.
Right.
I got this same old Big Break, right? And then they line us up on the beach to do the big reveal. And I know all this stuff. Yeah. No pressure, right? And then I see Michelle Tafoya come out, and I'm like, wait, she's the lead NFL person, right. Sideline personality, whatever is the proper term for that. And I'm like, NFL. And then I start looking, everybody's got a color scheme, and we're at the end and we're red. I'm like, wait, no way. And they're like, this is going to be Big Break NFL. 2 former Big Breakers are going to be paired with an NFL player. And I look at Emily and I'm like, we got Jerry Rice. We got Jerry Rice. We got Jerry Rice.
Yeah.
And my heart just jumps through the roof. And again, pressure's just cranked up. And here comes Jerry. He's revealed. We do the whole little segment. We go over to the first tee. Mind you, this is my childhood idol.
Right.
Lifelong Niner fan. I met Jerry Rice for the first time when I was 5 years old at Sierra College. I stood in line to get him to sign a Nerf football. And now my nerves are getting just all over the map. I'm going to be a teammate of Jerry Rice.
Right.
And we go over to play a practice round together, and I top my tee shot, and I'm like, okay, Isaac, you're going to have to pull this together here. You thought you had this all figured out. Yeah. It's still this golf. It's still this the Big Break. And, ended up being an amazing experience. Jerry was unbelievable and kind of, took me under his wing that during the competition. Emily and I and Jerry, all of us, we got along great and ultimately survived the competition, and as a team won the Big Break NFL. So we're now Big Break champions, and, money comes and goes and prizes come and go. And don't get me wrong, I'm super grateful for all of that came along with it. But at 10 years old, I told all those kids, at that junior, gosh, I don't know why I'm getting emotional. I told all those kids, I wanted to play on the PGA Tour at 10 years old. I decided I wanted to play on the PGA Tour. It took me 25 years, a lot of bumpy roads, and ultimately winning the Big Break. But that prize of getting to compete on the PGA Tour was 25 years in the making of wanting to do, one thing professionally. It never changed. I never wanted to be this or that. I wanted to play on the PGA Tour. I got to play on the PGA Tour. Didn't play as well as I wanted, but that's not the moral of the story to me. I got to play on the PGA Tour, and lifelong dream, and just an incredible blessing in this game. And has been so good to me, and God has blessed me in so many ways, and I feel it's just prepared me for where I'm at right now, coaching William Jessup University, the men's and women's golf team, and just have an opportunity to be able to share with what I've gone through and pour into these kids, and I'm just excited for this chapter in my life.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting, man. I mean, it's so cool to hear your story and to see your journey. And super excited for you, super excited for everybody at William Jessup to have somebody like you as a part of their program. So we'll be rooting for you guys, of course, and we'll see you at the golf tournament on the 15th. We're looking forward to that and being there and participating in that. So thanks for being on the show. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to another episode of Feast and Flight. Issac Sasquatch Sanchez has been my guest today, and be on the lookout for William Jessup Golf and also the Driven Golf Show.